Hey guys, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. I have another Valentine video for you. This one is super cute. I love how these projects came out. I hope that you will consider subscribing if you haven't already, and please hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Let's move on with these DIYs. For the first project, I'm using this large heart-shaped wood piece that came from Hobby Lobby. I picked mine up last year on clearance, but I'm sure they have these out again for this year. Here you're seeing that I laid out all of my pieces on top of the wood heart just to get an idea of how I wanted everything to lay and to look. This is an IOD transfer from one of their booklets that I've had in my stash for quite some time. And I'm going to go ahead and make this more of a vintage Valentine looking DIY, sort of shabby chic, sort of vintage. I really love the outcome. So stay tuned and keep following me so that you can see how I create this awesome project. I first took the color Plaster by Waverly. This is a really pretty neutral color. It's sort of a creamy white. It's not like a stark white or pure white. This has more of a cream tone to it, and it really makes a nice base for a lot of projects, especially if you're looking for a really pretty neutral color. This one here is super perfect. So here I'm taking these die cuts. These came from Hobby Lobby as well. This was a pack of assorted die cuts. I went ahead and chose the designs and colors that I wanted to use for this project. And as I mentioned, this rub-on transfer here came from a booklet from the IOD transfers. It's one of their older ones. I grabbed it maybe a year and a half ago or something. I never quite knew what I wanted to do with this particular design here, but I went ahead and used it for this project because I really wanted to create a really cute vintage Valentine decor. And as I was pointing to a piece on the wood, I was just showing you that when I lifted the backing off the transfer, I was able to pull up some of that paint color. So just be sure that your paint is fully dry. I was a little impatient, although I thought that my paint was dry, but I guess there was a part that was still wet. So I'm also taking these Dollar Tree wood signs here that looks like little letters, and I thought this would make a nice addition, just a three-dimensional piece to add to this decor piece. I'm gonna use some, I think the plaster chalk paint is what I use, or possibly Snow White chalk paint. And I did a light wash over that. And then I took some Waverly Antique Wax and just brushed a little bit over that envelope and then wiped it back with a napkin. I took my miter shears to remove the stick that came with the little envelope since I wasn't going to be using it for that purpose. I wanted to just use the envelope on its own. I then took some Antique Waverly Wax and a brush, and I started to brush on some of that wax along the edges of this heart decor just to add some distressing and to make it look more aged and vintage looking. I went a little heavy-handed in some areas, so I did have to go back in with some plaster chalk paint and paint over those dark areas that I wasn't happy with. So just be careful when you are using dark wax or antique wax. Sometimes if you go a little too heavy-handed, it's an easy fix just to go back in with the same colored paint that you used as your base and just go over the antique wax just to mute down the darkness of it. I also took a wet wipe, which I used to spread the antique wax. I feel like that method is very useful and it really works out in terms of getting like a nice natural distressed look. And also with the excess that's left over on your wet wipe, you can keep using that, just wiping off or wiping areas that you want to distress, because a lot of that wax is still left on that wet wipe and you don't actually have to keep going back and adding more product. So it's a great way to use whatever is left on that wet wipe without having to keep going back and adding more. And that way you have more control over how much depth and darkness you want on your piece. But again, I had to take some plaster chalk paint and just paint over some of those darkness that I wasn't happy with. Next up, I took this pack of, they look like labels. They're made of canvas or muslin material. I grabbed these from Michael's like ages ago. They don't even carry stuff like this anymore. which I'm really bummed because at one point, Michaels did used to have like their dollar section, but a lot of their items were $1.50. I'm not sure if any of you guys used to shop Michaels back in the day. We're talking like 15 years ago or something, when they used to have that whole section with just a bunch of small little crafty things, embellishments and stuff. Just really cute things that you can totally DIY with. I really miss that they don't have that section anymore, but a lot of the things that I'm showing you here, like those labels, came from Michaels many years ago. So I'm just going to use up those little labels. But before I move on to gluing those down, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue my envelope to a blank area of this wood heart. And then I'm going to also take some, it's one of those Valentine, they look like conversation hearts that comes in a pack from Hobby Lobby. I also grabbed that from the clearance section last year. And they're super adorable. They have different colors. They have different sayings on them. And I just grabbed the one that I, thought was appropriate. Or I thought the color that looked good. Next, I took a pack of these pearl stickers. And I love adding like dimensional pieces like this to a one-dimensional type of decor because it really adds a lot of depth, a lot of texture, variety, and just more interest to decoration. I grabbed those sticker gems in the pearl design in the cream color and just added those to the inside of some of those die cut flowers, just again to make it stand out a little bit more, and then in different areas of this heart decor. I then took some hot glue and just glued down those labels. They're sort of like a French Parisian style, and I really love those for adding to any project. I then took some ruffle trim that I had on hand. This has been in my stash for a very, very long time. And I'm just digging up a lot of things that I had on hand, which is perfect because I didn't have to go out and buy anything new for these two DIYs that I'm sharing here on this video here. I took the ruffle trim, it's really pretty cream color, and decided to trim off the backside of this heart decor. I wanted it to pop out from the front side. So I had to sort of angle my heart this way so I wasn't placing the ruffle too low where you couldn't see it from the front, or I didn't want it too high where everything was just uneven. So after everything was glued down into place, this is really coming together. I'm really loving the overall look of this project here. I hope you guys are enjoying this video so far. If you are, please consider subscribing and hit that like button. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single upload. I'm going to continue on and add more embellishments to this piece. Here's another item that I had in my stash. It's a butterfly, three-dimensional sort of butterfly. It came from an old pack of like stationery that I had many years ago, and I really like the color of it. I just cut off the little wire that it was stuck on, and then I took some feathers that I had in my stash, grabbed the ones that were the most neutral, like white and pale pink, and then added that to random areas of this decor piece just to further embellish. I also took this pack of paper flowers with some glitter, and this came from Dollar Tree. I found this last year in their Valentine section at Dollar Tree. I grabbed two different colors, the white and the light pink, just to add to this decal or this rub-on transfer, just making it more pop out more, and really highlighting that decal because it's such a cute little decal. What I'm doing here is I took another one of those roses, and I'm just sort of flicking off some of that glitter, the loose glitter, so that it would fall throughout this project and add some, some shine. Because when I was adding the flowers to this project, some of that glitter was falling off, and I liked the look of it. And I couldn't really find my stash of glitter, so I decided to just do this. I took some stray or some scrap pieces of both fabric and ribbon or lace trim, just cut them down to size to create this cute tassel. It was super easy. I just cut them into strips into the length that I wanted, making sure that I fold it over before I start attaching everything, just so that I knew how long it was going to be. I took another piece of twine and just combined or attached all the pieces together just so that they would form this tassel piece. And then I sort of used my hand to scrunch up all the ribbon just so that it would lay flat and fall more naturally. And then I hot glued the piece of twine to the back part of this heart decor. Here you see me just adding a lot of hot glue to make sure that everything stays in place. And I also took a piece of scrap ribbon that I used to reinforce where the hot glue was. I'm going to add a hanger here now. I took some seam binding. This is from Martha Stewart. This was in my stash and has been in my stash for, again, we're talking 15 years. I'm not sure if they still sell this, to be honest, but if you go to like the sewing section, I'm sure you can find seam binding of some sort, or any type of ribbon will do. I used that and double knotted in the back and created that beautiful hanger. And here is the outcome. I love how this piece came out. Super adorable, shabby chic vintage look. And it totally fits my aesthetic. I think it looks very romantic and sweet. And I hope you guys enjoyed this DIY. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think. So we're moving on to DIY number 2. Here is another similar style of decor using the same wood heart that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. I grabbed 2 of these last year because they were like at a deep discount, and I knew that I could do something with them for Valentine's this year. I'm taking 2 colors to create sort of like an ombre look, using that same plaster chalk paint to paint down the bottom portion of the heart. And then I'm taking Dixie Belle Champagne Pink to paint the top portion of that heart. And it's just going to be more of a two-tone effect, not necessarily ombre because it didn't have any type of gradient look to it or anything like that. I just wanted it to be more interesting looking and not just be one color. So that is sort of like the method to my madness. And both these projects came together super fast, super easy. It just took a little bit of thinking about how I wanted to decorate or design them, but anyone can do this. If you have embellishments, you have a craft hoard that you have to get through, you have, leftover things in your stash, these types of decorations are the perfect thing to use those types of things on, because I would call this sort of like a mixed media type of decoration, just because you're using so many different elements, not just like one style. I mean, we're using paint, fabric, ribbon, three-dimensional decorations, floral pieces, paper products, feathers, you name it. This has a lot of those elements that adds to the character. I'm also using this wood love sign here. This is from Dollar Tree. And I like to do a dry fit of my pieces before I actually start gluing all the pieces down, because I never know if it's actually going to come into fruition. Like, my idea in my head doesn't always translate well on, when you're putting it down and putting together your DIYs, at least for me. Sometimes I have to switch up and totally redo or revamp my idea or my thought process. So I like to do a dry fit, and then I go ahead and start adhering and attaching all the pieces down once I'm happy with the look and once I determine that it's actually going to work. Here are the feathers that I'm using. There are 2 colors. One is pink and one is white. And again, this is just stuff that you can pick up from any craft store. I'm sure Walmart carries it. It's stuff that I've had in my stash, and quite honestly, I almost donated it because it's been a minute since I actually used feathers, and I have like a whole bag of feathers in different colors because at one point I was making jewelry. So go figure. It's been years since I've actually dove into that pack of feathers, but I'm glad I kept it because I was able to use it on this project. And after the paint dried, as you saw here, I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue all the feathers down where the 2 colors meet. And this is just going to create sort of like a division, but at the same time, I don't know, it sort of separates the 2 colors, but, everything ends up looking cohesive regardless. This is the part where it was a little difficult. I was using some old wood adhesive here. It's the, I can't even remember the name of it, but it's just wood glue. And I must have had this for some time because it was really thick. And I was trying to use a paintbrush so that I can spread it more evenly. And I went in with some hot glue just to get that quick adhesion, and thinking that the hot glue and the wood glue combination would work, which typically it does. But in this case, I guess I should have allowed for it to dry completely and probably, you know, put something heavy down on top of it and let it do its thing while it dried. I was a little impatient and I wanted to carry on with the project. So this is lesson learned. So if you replicate this project, make sure that you give your glue time to dry and add some pressure or weight to your piece like this, because that love sign right there is a little bit of a thicker wood sign and it definitely needs to be attached a lot better than I did. So anyways, once that part was done, I was just going to go ahead and arrange my die cut stickers up top. And it does have an adhesive backing, so I just removed the paper. And then I took some ribbon that I had from Dollar Tree. This is like a white ribbon. It was during their Valentine's last year that they brought this out. I think they might have it this year. I'm not quite sure. So I'm going to just cut a few pieces just to embellish that bottom portion. I felt like it was lacking something. I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue that across and then cut it down and then hot glue to the back just for security. And then took these flower die cuts, as I mentioned, and removed the adhesive, or not the adhesive, the little paper, protective paper backing. And then here you're seeing me add more hot glue because that sign there was flimsy and it wasn't laying flat and it was getting detached in different areas. I was really not pleased with how I did that. And at this point, it was too late to just remove everything because I had so many pieces already glued down. I found this little, it's like a little keyhole that I found for my stash. And I thought this would make a nice little embellishment just to cover that little O. And again, just to add more charm and make it look even more Valentine's. I hot glued it down into place. And I thought that that silver metal look didn't really do it for me. So I did go in with some rub and buff and antique gold. And I did apply that to that little keyhole. I'm also hot gluing down these little pieces of, they're like paper and they have an adhesive to them. I'm not really sure where I got this from, but I found it with all my stuff and I thought they would make nice little accents to add to this heart decor. I took another piece of trim, lace trim, and then just cut that down and hot glued it down into place at the bottom. I thought that it needed 2 pieces of that trim. I also took this cute little key, also from Michael's many years ago, and I am going to attach that to in between the 2 pieces of trim at the bottom, which you will see here shortly. So here is what I was talking about, where I added some rub and buff to the keyhole just to make it gold. And I was a little bit messy with this, to be honest, because had I planned on actually making that gold, I would have done so before applying it or attaching it, because I got really messy and that rub and buff got all over the wood. The only way to remedy this was to add some antique wax all over the love sign, and that was the only option. I went ahead and painted some on and then just took a wet wipe and wiped some off until I got the look I wanted. And it also did a good job of concealing that little mess up where I had gotten the rub and buff on the wood. So again, there's always an easy fix when you mess up like that. There's always ways to go around it and try to fix your mistakes. So yes, I'm just continuing to apply that antique wax. And once everything was even, that part was done. And I believe I will be attaching that key down below in between those pieces of lace trim. And I love how this one is coming out. Very shabby chic, sweet and romantic. I hope you guys are enjoying the DIYs on this video. Please leave me a heart emoji in the comments below if you enjoyed this video. And thanks for being here. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back each and every time I post and for your continued support. And if you are new here, welcome. My name is Gwen, and I do love Dollar Tree hauls and budget-friendly DIYs. I like to create shabby chic, farmhouse, French country. I like to do Dollar Tree hauls and craft hauls, shopping hauls. If you enjoy that type of video and content, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you join my family. So here is where I attached that key. And again, I just did the same thing as I did the first time. I hot glued the piece of trim to the back. And I was debating, do I make a bow? Do I just lay it flat? I think I ended up making a bow with that second trim. It was time to add a hanger here. I used the same seam binding by Martha Stewart. This one is it's like a really light green, like a mint green. So that about wraps up these DIYs. I truly enjoyed creating these, and I hope you guys enjoyed the process and love the overall look of these DIYs. Please follow me for more budget-friendly DIYs and inspirations. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch you in my next video.